This is a tutorial in Animate CC on how to make and use symbols and how to edit symbols once you've made them. So I just have a blank screen, and let's say that I'm going to make a character as a symbol. Now previously we were just drawing the characters on the main stage, and you can certainly do that, but it doesn't take advantage of all of the tools. One of the most powerful tools in Animate CC is the ability to use symbols. The thing to understand about symbols is that symbols have their own timeline, and that's what makes them so powerful. So each symbol has an independent timeline from the main timeline. So that allows you to make internal animations that obey their own timeline. So for example, if you want to do a character that had blinking eyes, so I guess we'll do a face, and we'll do that as a symbol, and then we'll make the eyes blink on the symbol timeline, and then we'll put the face on the main timeline and animate the face coming into the scene in the main timeline. So let's go ahead and get started with that. The first thing you're going to want to do is go up to your Insert menu and go to New Symbol. Now when you're creating a new symbol, you have the opportunity to name the symbol. I'm just going to call this Face. And then you have the opportunity to choose the type of symbol. Now for now, I'm not going to talk about the different types. There are 3 different types: movie clip, button, and graphic. For now, let's just make everything a movie clip symbol, and in the future, I'll talk about what the difference is between those symbols. Go ahead and hit OK. Now notice that our work area changes. So the stage goes away. There's no longer a white stage, excuse me, surrounded by the kind of gray area which represents the wings, right? If you're using, if you're extending the metaphor of a stage, right? Instead, you get this crosshair, which represents the center of the symbol. When you're drawing symbols, you want to place them on that crosshair. That's important. If you don't do that, you'll run into some problems, especially when you're trying to rotate that symbol in the future. So we're just going to begin. I'm going to use the oval tool to make a face. Let's see. Let's make the fill color maybe orange. I'll just draw a circle. Okay, so that's going to be our head, and we're going to center that on that crosshair. Then we'll make some eyes. I'm going to increase the size of this stroke, maybe to 3. Just give me a moment. This will take a little bit of time. So I'm going to want to animate the eyes separately. So anytime you want to animate something separately, I've actually made a little bit of a mistake here, so I'll fix this. You want the eyes to be in a separate layer, because then you'll be able to animate them separately, and we can fix that easily. So I'm going to go ahead and name layer 1 face. I'm going to go to the new layer button and create a new layer, which I'm going to name eyes. and then come with the selection tool, the first tool, just select the eyes, go up to edit and copy, and then delete the eyes by just hitting the delete key. Move to the first frame of the eyes layer and just go to edit and paste in place. And then I can move that over onto the character. Now obviously I need another eye, so I'm just going to copy that, Command C, and paste it, Command V. Now you can go to the edit menu and copy and paste if you prefer. I'm just using the arrow keys to get this into position. So that's going to be the eyes. Let me lock the eye layer for a second, just so I don't inadvertently edit it. And then I'm going to go back to the face layer, and I'm going to draw the rest of the face. So let's get red for the stroke. I'm going to come to the property palettes, and I'm going to increase that stroke to maybe 10 or 8 maybe. And I'm going to make the mouth. So if you just select part of that mouth or part of that circle, you can just select the top of it and then just hit delete on the keyboard. So let's move the mouth into position. And we'll give him a little nose. Maybe the nose will just also be a little circle. So I'm going to get the oval tool. And I actually don't want the nose to be red. So let's change the color maybe to I guess it could be like a dark brown. If you get the ink bottle tool and you click on it, it'll change that to the new color. So again, I'm just going to select the top part of this and hit delete to delete that part. And that's kind of big for the nose, so let's scale that down using the third tool. To keep it proportionate, hold the shift key, and then let's move that into position. I'm using the arrow key to move it in position. You could also move it with the move tool. Okay, so that looks, a cute little character. Could give him some ears. So again, I'm just going to use the circle tool. I want to pick up this color of his face. I'm going to use black for the stroke. And I don't want the stroke to be 8. Let's make the stroke maybe 3. I just made the line around his face thicker. I didn't like the thickness of it. I think it was 1 point, and now it's 3. And let's just make some ears. So I'm going to do that with a circle again. And then select half the circle and delete it. Move his ear into position. I'm going to copy that, Command C, Command V, and then go to Modify, Transform, and flip it horizontally so that it's facing the other direction. Okay, I'm just using the arrow keys to get that into position. So that's pretty good. Maybe we'll give him some hair too. I'm just going to do that with the... I guess I'll just do it with the oval tool. So I'm going to take the stroke off, so set the stroke to nothing. And maybe he'll have red hair. Or reddish hair. So if you just draw some ovals, they'll join together. And I'm going to take that. I don't want it to be on top of everything. I want it to be behind. So if you go up to your Modify menu and you go down to Arrange, not sure why that's graying that out. Okay, we'll do it this way then. I want it to be behind him, not in front of him. I'll just make another layer, which I'll call hair. And in my layer stacking order, just pull that underneath the face. And let's copy this. So Command C and delete it. And then move down to the hair layer and select the first frame and paste. And then I can put this hair behind him. Okay, so there's a little character. You could obviously work on it further. So I've made this as a symbol. So let's talk about symbol editing and how to move between the symbol and the scene. So if you look up here in the top left-hand corner, this is the most important area when navigating between the scene and the symbol. So right now we're in scene 5, but then we're in the symbol that's part of that scene, right? So my timeline that I'm looking at is not the main timeline, it's the symbol timeline. So it's the face symbol timeline. This is a separate timeline, which allows us to get more complex with our animation because we can have internal animations. I think this will make more sense in a minute. But if I want to get back to the main scene, then up here in the left-hand corner, that represents a hierarchy, right? So we're inside the face symbol timeline, which is part of the scene. To get back to the scene, just click where it says scene 5, and it takes me back to the scene. Now, I haven't put the symbol in the scene yet. So if I go to my library, you can see my symbol is in the library. It's called face. And if I take it out of the library by dragging it and dropping it onto the stage, I'll now have this symbol on the main stage. If I want to edit the symbol again, and I do, you can go to the library, find the face symbol, and double-click that little gear icon that's right in front of the name of the symbol. When I double-click that, it takes me back into the symbol editing area, and it takes me back into the symbol timeline. So in this case, I want to blink the character's eyes. So I want his eyes to look like they're blinking. So I need to move everything down in time, let's say to 60 frames. So I'm going to move the hair down 60 frames by hitting function 5. I'm going to move the face down 60 frames by selecting the 60th frame and hitting function 5. And then I'm going to cause, let's go ahead and lock those two layers just so I don't inadvertently edit them. And I'm going to go to the eyes layer and I'm going to cause the eyes to be open. And maybe I want them to be open for 25 frames. So I'm going to come down to the 25th frame and I'm going to put in a keyframe, function 6. I'm going to select the first keyframe, hold shift, select the second keyframe, control click one of the in-between frames, which brings up my animation menu. From the animation menu, pick create classic tween. Now I'm not going to do anything. So I want the eyes to be open and paused open. So when you do a pause, you create the animation, but you don't change either one of the keyframes. Now, let's say from the 25th keyframe to the 35th keyframe, the eyes blink. So I'm going to go down to the 35th keyframe, and I'm going to hit function 6, and I'm going to put in another keyframe. And now I'm going to edit the eyes. So, I can basically delete those eyes out if I want to. So I'm now going to go to the eye layer, and I want to create the part of the animation where the eyes are going to be open. So I'm going to move down the eye layer maybe to the 25th frame, and I'm going to put in a keyframe, so function 6. So for the first 25 frames, the eyes will be open. To make it look like the eyes blink, I'm going to come down however long I want that action to take place. So let's say 10 frames. So I'm going to come down to the 35th frame and put in another keyframe, function 6. Now I want to delete the content out so I can redraw these closed. So I'm just going to select this content. I'm just selecting all the pieces and hitting the delete key to delete them. And then maybe I'll just get the, line tool. And for the closed eyes, I'll just draw 2 lines. You could get more complicated than that for the closed eyes, but in the interest of time, I'll keep it simple. Then, the eyes will be closed like that. I actually put too many frames in here, so let me correct that. So I'm just going to back highlight and control click and remove those frames. And then stretch this down again, function 6. Okay, sorry, made a little mistake there, but we fixed it. Okay, so for this first section, the eyes are open. And then from the second keyframe to the third keyframe, the eyes close. And if I want the eyes to open again, I just need to come down to the first keyframe and select the eyes and copy them. Edit, copy. Come down to this last keyframe, which is empty. I deleted the content out, so it's empty. And just go to edit and paste in place. And then I need to stretch it down. If I don't stretch it down, the eyes will disappear, which we don't want. So we need the eye layer to be the same length as the other layers. So basically just come down to the 60th frame and put in just a normal frame in this case. So we'll have the eyes open, then blink, and then open. So if you go back to your main scene, right, by going up to the, let me not do that so fast. So go up to the top corner where it says Scene 5 Face. Right now we're currently in the face timeline and we're in the face symbol editing area. To get back to the main stage, click on where it says Scene 5. So if we play this, I need to stretch my time down. So I'm just going to stretch it down 60 frames. So function 5. And if we go to control test scene, we'll have our eyes blinking. So those eyes are blinking in the internal timeline for the symbol. We can also animate the symbol with a second part of animation on the main stage, and anything that we animated in the symbol timeline will follow the animation on the main stage. So if we animate maybe the head popping up, for example. So to do that, I could have the head in the first frame. So let's select the first keyframe, move the head out of the scene. Maybe I move down 15 frames and put in a keyframe, function 6. Select the first keyframe, hold shift, select the second keyframe, control click on one of the in-between frames. That brings up your animation menu and pick create classic tween. So I'm going to make it pause so it doesn't pop up for just a second. And then the next part is going to be the motion where he pops into the scene. So let's say that takes from the 15th frame to the 35th frame. Put in a keyframe, function 6. With that keyframe selected, move the character to its ending position. And then finally, let's come down and put in a keyframe at the 60th frame. So if we watch this animation, control test scene, the character won't be on the stage, and then he'll pop up. And the whole time that that's happening, his eyes will be blinking. We could make this more complicated. Maybe after he pops up, he pauses for a moment. So I'll come down to maybe the 100th frame and put in another keyframe. And then after he pauses, maybe he moves to the right out of the scene. So I'll come down to like the 125th frame and put in another keyframe. With the last keyframe selected, move him out of the scene. Now, it's always good to put a pause at the beginning and the end of a scene. In almost all instances, you want to do that. I mean, not all instances, but frequently it's a good idea. So I'm just going to come down and pause it again. So function 5. And so that'll be a pause out of scene, and then it'll, there'll be nothing in the scene. So if we go to control test scene, pause, the head pops up, the eyes are blinking, pause in the middle of the scene, the eyes are blinking, and then it moves out of scene. Now let's say that I wanted the eyes to blink faster. How would I edit that? Well, in that case, you'd have to edit it in the timeline that's controlling those eyes. And if you remember, we made that animation in the symbol timeline. So I'd come to the library, find the face symbol, double click the little gear icon in front of the word face. That brings us into the symbol editing area. On my eye layer, right, the open part is so long because it's 25 frames, so it's 2 seconds. So if I wanted that to be quicker, take some of this time out. So insert my insertion point and do a shift function 5. Every time I'm doing that, I'm taking out 1/12 of a second. So if I make that part shorter and this part shorter, which are the two pauses, then his eyes will blink faster. Now I'll also need to shorten the face. So shift function 5, or otherwise it'll look like his eyes disappear. And I also need to shorten the hair. So shift function 5. You'll find yourself adjusting things like this all the time. Okay, so if we go back to the scene, you do that by going up to the top left-hand corner, going to where it says scene 5 and clicking on it. That takes me back to the scene. And if I now go to control test scene, you can see that the blinking will be faster. That's basically it for this tutorial. See you next time.